Hi guys, I'm sure many of you know about Bold and Bankrupt. It's a real cool channel. If you haven't seen any of his videos, check them out. He was recently in Ukraine, or maybe he's still in Ukraine. So Benjamin made a video about the dodgiest part of Dnipro, which is another city of Ukraine, and I decided to show you the part of Kharkov, which has the reputation of the dodgiest part of our city. It's called ХТЗ, which stands for Kharkovsky Тракторный Завод or Kharkov Tractor Factory. And it's located 8 kilometers away from the city center. We are heading there right now, and I will show you around and tell you a little bit about the history of this place. You will be surprised, but it's very connected to the United States, so check it out.
Да, вот это Лосево.
То есть люди от завода, получается, переходили проспект, да?
Да. Тут когда метро сделали, столько людей было, ты что это ж. Подземный переход. То раньше переходили прямо поверху. Тогда машины, а потом сделали подземный переход. А вечером боялись идти через этот переход, потому что люди шли с получкой и могли споловить.
I'm now standing in front of the Kharkiv, basically the front building of the Kharkiv tractor factory. Now it belongs to the company called DCH. It's the same company that owns the Kharkiv airport, by the way. So basically the story of this factory is similar to the story of many factories throughout the Soviet Union, because in the 1920s the leadership of the Soviet Union realized that they need to quickly change the way the economy worked, and they needed the factories for the weapons and generally industry, and so they turned to United States, and there was a man called Alan Kahn, Albert Kahn, who was a close aide to Henry Ford, and they basically made a deal to create plants and build over 400 factories throughout the territory of the former Soviet Union. And one of those factories was also Kharkiv tractor factory. So when they built the factory, of course, when they started building the factory, of course, it became clear that they needed, space for the workers, and so because we are now about 8-9 kilometers away from the city center of Kharkiv, there was, of course, an option for people to come here to work from Kharkiv. But it was not a comfortable option, so they decided to build a town here, and so that's in front of the factory. People would go out of the factory and go home. My grandfather worked here since 1946, basically until his retirement, so for almost 35 years, and yeah, it's Americans took a very active role in building this factory. The contract was for $4 billion, which nowadays is like $200 billion. The contract was, as I said, for several hundred different factories. They made plans and engineering designs for all those factories around the Soviet Union. So you see the grayish building there, this is part of the factory. Of course, during the Soviet times, it was a very vibrant factory making tractors for the agriculture. Nowadays, it's struggling. It still exists, but it's struggling. You can see the cars parked, so some people come here to work. And now I'm going to show you where people who worked here in the tractor factory actually lived.
А можно там Никитова улица, как раз к нашему дому.
Так ближе 20-й или ближе твой дом?
Сначала мой дом.
Давай тогда поедем.
А куда?
Ну дальше едет там. Вот церковь.
Что на ХТЗ все бросаются под
Ну,
машину.
конечно. А вот здесь можно поворачивать как раз.
Теплее.
Вот в этом доме.
Этот?
Не, дальше.
А Бекетова она осталась, как было, так и есть.
Да?
I'm here with my dad, and he brought me to the house where he was growing up. That's it. 29. That's a newer building, but those you can see they're identical. Those were the windows of my dad's parents' place. Those two. Those were his neighbors. So the houses they were building right after they built the factory were two types basically, 4-story and 6-story. So the one that you see behind me and also the house my dad lived in is a 4-story, and it was normally for the people who were families already, who married people. And the 6-story building that I will show to you now was mainly for the youth, for the workers who weren't married yet. And the idea was that eventually they meet somebody and move to the 4-story. Also, there were kindergartens and schools everywhere. So it was like a little town for 60,000 people who, for the most part, of course, worked at the Kharkov tractor factory. So this is the 6-story building that I just mentioned. You can see it's in a pretty bad shape. А люди живут тут до сих пор? And my dad says that people still live here. So those several buildings, my dad told me that they were built after the war, and he, as a boy, he remembers the trucks bringing inmates to build those houses. And as you probably know, the jails were never empty in the Soviet Union, and there were lots of people. Some of them obviously committed crimes, but many, the only crimes they committed was that they allowed themselves to think freely, which was not allowed. So those buildings were built after the war by the prisoners, and my father remembers seeing those trucks. It was terribly cold winter with the the poster said "Victory, USSR," and the picture of the Kremlin.